Welcome everyone to the ManCave Podcast. We have another exciting episode for you today. We're glad you're here. My name is Devin Bolden. I'll be moderating today's conversation. I have three great men with me. I'm going to have them introduce themselves for a moment, and then we're just going to dive right in. So, gentlemen, if you could introduce yourselves. I'm going to start from the left to the right.
Good
Sir.
evening. My name is Harvey Wortham. I'm a deacon here at Mount Calvary Missionary Church, father of 2 kids, grandfather of 7, and I'm just glad to be a part of the podcast this evening.
I'm Kavon Armour, and I am in Mount Media.
My name is John Gibson. I'm a deacon here at Mount Calvary Missionary Baptist Church. I have a total of 8 kids combined in my marriage, 6 grandkids and 1 great-grandson.
Thank you, gentlemen, for sharing. Well, today we're just going to start off. I would say I know a little bit about you all pretty well to be able to start this conversation. One thing I want to start off with asking is what I'm hearing already just in the time I've known you. I hear father. Even though he didn't say it, I hear coach. Even though you didn't say it here today, you have a business owner.
Yes, sir.
These are 3 different domains, 3 different avenues where you're building. Whether you know it or not, you're building something, and you continue to do so every year. Can you talk to me a little bit about what it means to be someone who is in a leadership role while building? I'll start with you, Brother Wortham.
Well, as a father, I think your children look to you for leadership and guidance. Even if you aren't saying it, they're watching your actions because your actions speak louder than anything you can say. You can tell your kids to do this or do that, but they're watching what you do. Don't hang out over there. That's a bad group of folk. But if they see you going to the club or hanging out with some guys that are not of good character, they're watching that. And eventually they're going to ask you, well, Dad, you always tell me not to do this, not to do that. But I say, you hanging out with, this group of folk. Why are you telling me that and you aren't doing it yourself? So you have to lead by example,
Yes, sir.
regardless of what you say. Lead by example.
Yes, sir. Someone's always watching, right?
Always watching
Yes,
you.
sir. If any of you gentlemen like to chime in, that's okay. If not, I have another question or two.
I think a lot, to expand on that, it's not, and you touched base on it briefly, it's not just as Christian men, it's not just our kids that watch our actions. It's those around us, people we encounter that we may not know. Somebody we may bump into at the grocery store that knows we go to a church or knows we go to Mount Calvary, and they expect Christians to act a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you said yourself, somebody's always watching.
Yes. Yep. And
I like to address that again because he's absolutely right. People are watching. You never know who they are. People that you have no idea are looking at what you do. I've been approached a number of times by folks that, can you talk to my son? First of all, who is your son?
Mm-hmm.
And then they say, oh, okay. What do you want me to talk to him about? Well, I just see how you interact with your grandson. And I think you'll be a good influence on my son if you could talk to him. Because I've been watching how you interact with your grandson, and it impressed me.
Yeah.
And I see how they react to you. And I think it would be helpful if my son, had that type of relationship with a man that goes to church, man that loves his family.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Communication is very, very important. It's what you say, but also what you do. Is what you're saying. Kavon, can I ask you, being a coach, how are you building up your football players as a coach? What are some of the things you do to build them up?
Well, I approach pretty much everything that I do with the mindset of we take what we have, see what we could do from there. Kind of encourage them to point out what they did wrong see if they see it first before me just butting in and be like, no, you did this wrong, you did that wrong, or you should do this or you should do that. I try to lead by having their voice heard first versus them hearing my voice first. Just to get an idea of how they see the game, because when I started, I was not that young, so I don't know from experience that young of how they would see the field, how complicated certain things would be. So I try to give them type of encouragement just to help themselves get better. Like, even if I'm to the point where I'm zoned out and I'm into the game and I can't be like, okay, pick your head up, you did good, next play, forget about it. But to encourage their teammates to do it for them and for them to do it to each other, that's how I approach. That's how I think leadership should be, whether a coach or in a business,
or a father,
yeah, or
same
just
thing.
any type of. Because I try to do it with my nephews, and wherever kids I'm around, because I have very sporadic, extended family, so with a lot of kids, so
Love that.
try to,
Yeah.
do that.
Brother John, you mentioned being a Christian man. There's kind of a translation here, or as a Christian man, we're supposed to encourage one another, right?
Yes, sir.
As believers, encourage one another. One of the things I'm hearing from you, Kavon, is being able to encourage those on your team, encourage those who are looking up to you. That sounds like a transferable skill right there, being a Christian man and also being someone who's building something, building not just a company, not just a team. You're building people around you as you're being built. Can you all talk to me a little bit about those moments where, Kavon, like you said, you were listening to your team? Is there a moment where you heard something from maybe someone you worked with or someone who was in your family or even somebody on your team that helped you grow in a way in your leadership?
Yeah, I've had a few coaches, without me even saying anything to them, like trying to figure out my vision as a coach. Like, I'm a defensive coordinator, trying to build my defense, trying to figure out different ways to expand my knowledge as I'm getting older and growing with the same group of kids that I've coached, for 2-3 years now. So the experience is there. So I'm trying to grab all I can from who I'm building myself around. And they, without hesitation, have took on that role and be like, all right, well, let's figure this out. Let's do this. I got an idea. And if it works, it works. If not, if it doesn't, that's cool. We'll figure something else out. But the mentorship is definitely appreciated also. So, yeah. I'm not sure if I answered that directly, but
You just opened up the door for another piece of conversation, unless these gentlemen have something else they'd like to share.
I think the best, I guess, action we can do as Christian men, or as a man, period, is to pour into others, whether it be, a kid you coach on the field, or a new person that comes in the door of the church. Brother Harvey probably doesn't know it, but I get a lot from him, just in conversations we may have just out here in the lobby on Sundays during, before church starts. I think that's probably the most important thing we can do, mainly as men, is to pour into each other, because your facet of life and what you do professionally may not be the same as what I do. but there's no reason that I can't take something that you can tell me and apply it to my situation. You know, I didn't know until sitting here tonight he coached kids.
Mhm.
He didn't know until I was sitting here tonight that I coached kids years ago. You know, before the podcast started, I was able to pour into him a little bit of knowledge that I used when I coached, and building up, preparing somebody for the next level. And I think as men sometimes, it's hard for us to accept that pour from somebody. And I think a lot of times that hinders and unfortunately stops us from some of the blessings we can receive.
It's very difficult.
Yes, it is.
Especially when you've never maybe seen it before. You know, I say it's a lot of prideful, and I speak for myself. Sometimes it can be very hard to ask for help. You know, very hard to ask for help. You mentioned, Brother Wortham, unless you have something else, I have a follow-up. Just want to give you your moment.
Just piggyback on what
Okay.
John was talking about. We as men think that reaching out, sharing, is a sign of weakness.
Mm-hmm.
Because we felt that, man, I can't share that with nobody. They'll think I don't know what I'm doing. They'll think of me as less of a man. That's the strength of a man. When you know you have a weakness or you know you have a problem, you know you have an issue, reach out to somebody else. And most of the time, or a lot of the time, you will find that they're experiencing the same thing. And just sharing those experiences, you know, from one brother to another, you'll find out, hey, I'm not that bad. You know, I can try something different.
Yep.
I talked to this brother, and he shared something that I never thought about. And the same thing, I might say something he never thought of. But just opening up, sharing, you'll find that life is a lot easier than trying to walk that road by yourself. It's a lot easier when you got somebody walking beside you.
Yes.
I think it goes back to the whole age-old adjective of men don't stop to ask for directions. We just wander around aimlessly.
That's
I got it.
I got it. I know where I'm going.
absolutely.
We've
I
passed
get
the same gas station 6 times. Stop and ask them where we're going.
let me figure it out.
Right.
That's what we are. Okay, you giving me stuff, fellas, because what I'm hearing here is, in order to possibly even get to the places that we've never gotten to before, it takes us sharing with each other.
Absolutely.
It takes us building bridges with each other. And what can I say in regards to this? But the way things are lined up right now, some of the being a father, being a coach, being a business owner, those things feel separate. They are lined up, but some of your lives also fall into the same realms. You just said you were a coach.
Mm-hmm.
Kavon is a coach. Brother Wortham, I know you've been a coach. I done heard about you. Great things, though. Great things. But you all have the intersection of being a coach. Now, Kavon being a new coach, he has so much experience to gain from just your years of coaching. Kavon might one day be a father. He has experience that he can get from you. He might be a business owner one day. I'm sure he'll be a business owner one day. Brother John, he could come to you. Mm-hmm. There's so much power in knowing that if that, I want to say pride, but if that question is asked, how much can be available to him? I'm gonna shout out an event I went to last week, and it was Dr. Alan Waller, the Men's Empowerment Brunch, and he was talking about how everyone needs a Paul or a Timothy or a Barnabas. And I can't say I've read all of it, but I know enough to know who Paul is. I know enough to know who Timothy is. And based on that conversation on Saturday, I know who Barnabas is. And he also talked about a Leroy, but Leroy wasn't in the Bible. But in this conversation, it was like you always need someone who you can reach up to, a Paul, someone who's seen a lot more sunrises than you have. And then you also need a Timothy, someone who hasn't seen as many sunrises as you, but you can still learn from. And then a Barnabas, somebody to hold you accountable, someone you can give your good and your bad to. And so, Kavon, I would just say in your conversation talking about your team, the way that you let them kind of talk to you too, it's one of those situations. Like you're there, in a way, you're their Paul. They're looking for you for guidance, being a coach, but then you might be learning stuff from them, right? There was stuff you didn't learn back then that they have, and you're learning from it too. Brother Wortham, being a father, I'm sure you've probably learned a lot from your kids and grandkids. You've probably given them a lot, but you've probably gotten a lot too. So that's I'm talking out loud as I'm seeing it. But Brother John, I'm sure in the areas of your life, you've also had places where maybe being a business owner, you might have had some people who you've given some game to. Yeah, you might want to do it this way. I'm giving you brief examples, but if you gentlemen have any, maybe if you looked inside of your, do I have a Paul? Do I have a Timothy? Do I have a Barnabas? Like, I guess I'm asking that from you all.
Before I get to that,
Yeah.
I think it's only fitting that you brought up what you did.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the three guests on the panel tonight, I feel pretty certain in saying there's probably at least 20 years in age difference between me and him.
Mm-hmm.
Probably at least 20 years age difference between myself and Brother Harvey. We weren't put here by mishap tonight.
Yes, sir.
But just like in the Bible, Jesus didn't do all his great works by himself. You know, he had people that helped him deliver the gospel to different portions of the world.
Yes, sir.
And there's nothing wrong with you having a Paul or a Timothy, or it's, in today's society, it's almost a necessity. It's almost another tool that you have to have in your toolbox. When I say toolbox, I'm not necessarily speaking traditionally of the toolbox we all have in our garage, but the hammers, and there's a toolbox that goes along with being a Christian man, just like there's a toolbox that goes along with building. And more times than not, the toolbox that goes along with being a Christian man can go hand in hand with the toolbox that goes along with building, because iron sharpens iron. A rock is just a rock until it's chiseled away into a sculpture.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. That's good.
And just going along with what John was saying, we learn from others and we learn from our mistakes. Parenting, there is no book that tells you how to parent, because everyone raises their kids differently, and you learn from your mistakes. The key, I find, is not making that same mistake again. Oh, you're going to make mistakes along the way, no doubt about that, but you learn from them. And learn how to be a better father, a better friend. And there's absolutely nothing wrong. I think it's imperative that you have a friend that's not going to agree with you all the time. Because if you've got a friend that's agreeing with you all the time, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Something's absolutely wrong. Because I can't be right about everything I say or everything I do. And if I've got somebody that says, oh, yeah, that's all right, that's cool, yeah, we'll do this. Oh, that's cool, we'll do that. We're both going to end up in the pit. Just like the blind leading the blind. I don't know, and he's agreeing with me, he's right along with me. But if he checks me, that makes me stop and think. Why is he telling me not to do this? I think that's a good idea. I'm going to do this. I don't care what he say. And I think about it. Yeah, well, maybe I better slow it down. Maybe I take a second look at this. And the same thing, it applies when you reach out to another brother. You see a brother that's been, as you put it, have seen more sunlights, more sunsets than I have. Hey, reach out to him, because he's got some knowledge. He didn't live that long. He didn't learn anything. He's made mistakes along the way, and hopefully he's gained knowledge from those mistakes, stuff that he can share with me that I don't make them. And I think everyone at every age can always pour into someone that's behind us coming up and let them know, hey, that's not a good idea. Let me tell you what happened to me when I did that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the problem that we have generationally that we have. We don't reach out to folk behind us, because they look up to you and say, oh, man, he's got it going on. He's got this and he's got that. And, here I am, I'm struggling. No, I wasn't born that way. You had to go through some stuff to get there. And the problem I see is we don't open up and share with those behind us to let them know, hey, I wasn't always this way. I didn't always have this. Let me tell you the road I took. Let me tell you the problems and issues that I had. And when you're open and you're sharing, then younger folk have a tendency, some of them, I won't say every, but have a tendency to stop and think, oh, okay, looking at them now, I never knew they went through that, or I never knew they did this. Maybe I better take a second look at it, because if it worked for them and seeing where they are now, maybe I might want to give that a shot. I might want to try that. And I think that's one of the things we've got to do more of, is being open with younger folk to let them know that, hey, what you see now is not the way I always was. I had to go through some stuff to get here. Let me share that with you so that, you won't make some of the mistakes I made. You can avoid them if you just listen, because I look back over my life now, and when I was much younger, folk would tell me stuff, older folk would tell me, and I look, man, you just dumb and stupid. You ain't that crazy. And, I end up making some of the same mistakes. And then it comes back to, don't have to tell me nothing. It automatically, man, if I had just, and I am that way today. Some of the things that, my parents, some older folk had told me, and I heard it, but I didn't apply it. And now, as I said, playing out in my life, and I said, wow, I didn't understand what they meant by that when they told me that, 15, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I wish I had listened.
Yeah.
If I had listened, man, I wouldn't have to go through this. I wouldn't have to go through that, or I'd be farther on in my life if I had just listened. But that comes with living long enough to experience enough things that you can see the difference and the wisdom that older folk have, and they try and share with you if you would just listen.
Okay. If anybody has anything to follow up with that, more than welcome. But I do have another point coming up from something that you just said, Brother Wortham. Even though things sunk in, maybe 20, 30 years later, I'm thinking about how people build legacy. And sometimes legacy can be in our words. So although it might have took some time to connect, even though some of these people, I assume, maybe are passed on, but those words have remained. And I'm just thinking about, even though you weren't the originator, you've locked in on them. You done been through it. Okay, I remember what they said 20, 30 years ago. So not only when you give experience to Kavon one day, maybe, are you giving your experience, but you're giving that legacy that group gave to you, that Kavon will never touch, but he's touched it or has a chance to touch it because of you. I think that's really powerful. And I think that is, I don't know, do we all think about that? I mean, about what people give to you, like we almost have a responsibility to be vulnerable, to share what we've been given. Like that's our gift to give. Even if you can't, like sometimes I don't have enough to give everybody a Christmas gift, but I can still give some of the words of wisdom or encouragement I got from my grandparents on to, I don't know, my nephew, because he's never met my grandfather, but some of the things that he said to me, I can give to him, although he's never met him. Do you gentlemen, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Have you ever looked at it that way, or?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I can think of some things that I had an uncle or my dad or my mom had told me, and, it came to pass. Now I share that with my kids and my grandkids and some of my grandkids that never met some of my older uncles and even my mom. But when I share some of the things that were shared with me, to them, I think we have an obligation to share that. Because at some point in their life, they're going to need that. That may be the thing that, kind of sets them on the right path if they're kind of swaying away, or that bit of information or knowledge they can recall, hey, I heard, my granddaddy say that his uncle or his aunt or his mom told him, hey, when you get to this point, hey, don't do that, do this. Maybe I'm gonna try that. Because it seemed like it worked for them. Maybe I'm gonna try to see if it works for me. Because and it's that legacy of words, just passing it on, passing it on. And a lot of our history, for black folk particularly, has been that oral history, passing it on from generation to generation.
I agree. I think a lot of times people don't look at it the way I do. I view it as a responsibility to pour into the generations coming behind me, or as you say, leaving a legacy. Legacy doesn't always have to be about financial or property. It can be those words of wisdom that I got from my grandfather that none of my kids have ever met. He was gone long before they come around. At some point in time, there's times that things he said that will pop in. I could be on a job working, and something he said will inevitably pop in my head. And it's those little, what'd y'all call them back in the day, Brother Harvey? Acorns, or what were they called?
Yeah, some call them acorns.
Nuggets.
That's nuggets, yeah.
Wisdom.
It would pop in my head like, okay, I remember he said that, and I remember why he said that. So I look at it as though it's a responsibility. We have a responsibility to leave something, knowledge, in the minds of the generations coming behind us. Because if we don't, then they're doomed to repeat the same history over and over again. Then we get into the vicious cycle, and it never stops. It's unfortunate nobody's going to help us but us. And I'm a firm believer in put yourself around what you want to be. If you want to be a man of God, put yourself in that environment. Put yourself around those people. Do you think, not to be funny, it's kind of off topic but still on topic, you don't ever see millionaires around what they call common people, do you? What are they always around? The millionaires. There's a reason for that. You put yourself around what you want to be, or whatever goal you set for yourself that you want to achieve. I don't need to be a millionaire, but I need to leave the knowledge I have when the good Lord calls me home in somebody else's capable hands, so that they can do the same for the generation coming behind them and the generation coming behind them.
That's good.
Coach?
But I just got to piggyback on what you were saying, John, and that's absolutely true. They say we are a product of our environment. That is true. But the key to that, we don't have to stay there. We don't have to stay there, because a lot of us have been brought up in an environment that's not that good, not conducive to building wealth. But you don't have to stay there. It's the desire that you want better. So you have to make the decision yourself. Hey, I want out. I want something better. So I have to go to work. And I don't mean just physical work, but religiously, mentally, and physically. You need all of that to become the best version of yourself that you can be. I can recall, a lot of years ago, as a matter of fact, my uncle was telling me, one day I was helping him, on a roof, nailing it, and me and my brother and cousin, we were up there just clowning and playing around, and start telling, these old nasty jokes. He realized, I'm sorry. And my uncle, what you sorry for? You ain't got to apologize to me. The good Lord hurt you. Yeah, that's where you got to watch yourself. Ain't nothing you can say, and ain't nothing I can do that's going to put you in heaven or send you to hell. You got to be responsible for the man above. And I listened to that, and we just laughed, but it checked us. It checked us. And another thing that he told me, when you ask God for something, he'll give it to you. But he might not give it to you when you want it, how you want it. And he had told me that all my life, coming up. I can recall at one point in my life, I was without a job. Man, I'm working, trying to get a job. I got a job as a janitor. Janitor. Hey, okay. I needed a job. That's what I asked him for. He gave me a job. Okay, I took the janitor job. I'm working it. Paid some bills. Lord, I want something a little better. But I worked that janitor job. I called it Matilda. I get that little mop, man, and I sweep now. I get my mop and dance around. About a year, I got something better. But he sent me farther from home. I said, well, God, I wanted something better, but, you sending me way out there. And again, something came to my mind that I was told years ago. When the God gives you something, he wants to see how you use it. So I said, oh, okay, all right. I asked for something better. You gave me something better, but you moved me farther away. But, I'm going to be receptive. I'm glad that you gave it to me. I took it. Learned a lot. Away from home. Praying again. Oh, Lord, thank you. You got me back where I wanted to be, but you moved me farther away. And that's the thing about being obedient. It's about being obedient. And just by being obedient, finally, the Lord answered that prayer for me and getting me where I want, in my profession, where I wanted to be, back in Dayton. And, he did that for me. But I looked at the road that I took. Here, didn't really want it, but he gave me what I asked for, a job. I accepted it. Oh, Lord, okay, thank you for the job. Boy, I really want to get back in my profession. Okay. I did the best I could with that one, so he gave me that one. But he put me farther away. Okay, all right, God. I'm going to take it. And I took it. And I worked out, probably a year and a half. Finally, he brought me back where I wanted to be, where I retired from. And I look back just asking God. And he's answering my prayer, but not the way I wanted it. To me, it was a test to see how obedient I would be. The job, he gave it to me. Get back in my profession. He gave it to me, but I'm going to push you way over here to see what you do with it. I did it. Finally, after about another year and a half, okay, now I'm going to bring you back where this is what you asked for. These were just all stopping points, that is, to get you where you wanted to be. But I learned one thing: being obedient is the key.
Opens doors.
Yes, it does.
It kind of goes back to a message that Pastor delivered 3 weeks ago, and sometimes it'll take us on the long way around.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's for our benefit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a witness to that.
Your toolbox. I feel like sometimes you get taken on the long route so you can get your toolbox together.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's some tools you can't get quick.
And you're absolutely right. The last job I had before I retired, a lot of guys would see me, doing various jobs, actually report it to me, and they'll, man, you got it made. Yeah, you got it made. One day I sat down and talked about it. I said, man, I ain't got it made. Let me tell you what it took to get here. I said, that job you're doing now, I said, I did that.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't tell me nothing about this that I don't know.
Yeah.
I said, I did this.
Yeah.
And I did something else. I did a lot of things before I got here. So what do you say that I got it made? No, I have been blessed.
Yes.
I have been blessed.
Yes, sir.
And now I'm able to share that with somebody else. If you trust him, be obedient, he'll give it to you. It might not be when you want it, how you want it, but he'll give it to you. Just stay obedient to his will. It'll happen.
Yeah. I love the part where you said that they thought you became touchable in a way when you shared where you were, where you had been. I
Yeah.
feel like sometimes that breaks down the walls. You know, people might perceive you as something else or haven't lived a certain way. Oh, he got it all. You know, it sounds like, you know, you became human again when you told him, hey, it ain't always been like
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Let me show you where I've been. You know,
Absolutely.
so you building bridges. You know, once again, another opportunity to build bridges. Gentlemen, it's been a great conversation. We're gonna wrap up, but today I just wanted to talk about just building in the ways that you men in front of me have built already in your lives. And it sounds like the next responsibility, which you already have been doing, it sounds like it's just building those bridges and giving it to the next, what you've learned in your years. Or, Kavon, you ain't been here too long, you feel me? But I feel like you still have been able to give what you had for the next group coming up. So, you gentlemen, I hope we build some bridges today. You know, you all have some experiences. I hope you know you can lean on each other. It's there. So I appreciate the
Without a doubt.
conversation.
Without a doubt.
Yes, sir. Thank you all. And that's another episode of our ManCave Podcast. We appreciate you all for joining in tonight, and we'll check you again next month. Have a good one.